everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are on our fourth episode.
Yep, number
Right.
4.
Number 4 episode of The Art and the Easel. And today it's just us. It's back to us. We had Alexis in our previous episode.
Yep, episode 3.
We had episode 3, and then we had Isabel, episode 2, and then now we're back, just you and I, for this episode. And
Yeah,
we are excited to have other guests in the future. If you're interested, let us know.
hit us up.
But yeah, for today it's us. And as you know, as always, we start off with our meditation. And I'll kick that off to Aaron this time around.
Okay.
I did last time.
Yes. So this meditation was one that you all may be familiar with if you listen to episode 2 with Isabel. It'll be really quick. This time it's going to be the It's Okay meditation that I typically do on my own, but we're going to bring it to the masses today. So wherever you are, as long as you're not driving, or working out or on the Stairmaster, because I guess it will be awkward as well. But you can do this anywhere. If you're driving, have your eyes open, please, when you do this. So just get into a quiet space internally. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe in through your nose. And then as you breathe out, just tell yourself it's going to be okay. It's okay. If you do have the chance to touch your heart, put your hand over your heart and do it again. It's okay.
It's okay.
Okay. We'll do it one more time. And then this time we're going to breathe in. And this time we're going to tell ourselves, you've always been okay. So. You've always been okay.
You've always been okay.
Cool.
Nice.
And now we're back to the present moment. Just full transparency, I was having a little moment before Gina was being my sounding board, and this was much needed to get me back into the present moment. So hopefully that allowed you all to get recentered. And now welcome to episode 4.
Bless you.
I'm already blessed. Thank you.
Okay.
I sneezed on purpose. I just wanted to say that. I'm just playing. Thank you, Gina.
You're welcome. Jesus. You're giving out blessings. It's being rejected. I'm joking.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so for today, I know we talked a lot about this separately, but I think it's a great idea to discuss it here today, and I think a lot of people will find it really helpful as they embark on different ways to express themselves, how to open themselves up mentally, and just, find their journeys in expressing themselves creatively, whether that's alone or with other people. And to kick it off, I have a question for you. What is creative collaboration to you? Like, by your Webster definition, your own little dictionary, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Creative collaboration, which is what Gina and I are doing with the Art and the Easel, I think, in my opinion, is where there is a creative goal that is trying to be achieved, and you partnering up with someone to help you get there, or get there together. So you always like you said, you have a shared vision, and you want to get to the goal.
Definition?
Well, because
about lack of individuality. No, I'm kidding.
Well, no, because okay. So for more context, we were having a conversation, and it just literally came to me as I'm thinking about the definition. It is. What you said was correct. I think the conversation before was basically, what?
Nothing. We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. The conversation before was basically in me having, like, not both parties having to have the shared vision in a partnership. and that one partner in a collaboration or a creative collaboration can have a vision and you can help that other person get there. However, I was on the other end of saying like, no, Gina, you can like if you see the vision, like tell me the vision so I can like work to get there. Cause I'm like always like I'm in the present moment, like I'm just focused on right now. Everything is as it is, everything will be as it will be. And I'm like, Gina, if you have this vision, share with me the vision. And I think I had the vision when I came to you.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you become too present, you forget about the vision. And I think when we had that conversation as a creative collaborator, I guess I worded it wrong. I wasn't saying to share the vision with me or let me know what the vision is. I was just saying help me remember it. Because sometimes we forget. And that's I think now that I'm talking about it after I was able to meditate just now and get back to a clear place, it wasn't sharing it with me because we already have it. It's more so like just help me remember it because sometimes we can lose it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of having a creative partnership with someone is when you do get sidetracked or when you do kind of lose the so what of things, is that you have that other collaborator to remind you of the reason why you're doing what you're doing or why you even shared it in the first place. Yeah. Completely agree. Yeah.
And so like with that, like how, not speaking about our situation, I know we just had a very personal conversation on camera just now.
Yeah.
Because I like literally before this episode, that was not a realization that I quite had.
No, you didn't.
I didn't have that until
didn't.
just at this particular moment of I just need help remembering it sometimes.
Yeah.
Not that I don't know it, because I do know it. Because when we talked about it, I knew it.
Yeah.
And we both agreed on that.
For sure. I think the difference is that you're very much so in the present.
Yeah.
Like focusing on what's happening right now, like tuning in on how you're feeling and like vocalizing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I tend to take a step back, analyze it, and like tie it back to like what's the shared vision, what's the end goal, and all of that.
Yeah.
More like present future, or future rather than like just fully present.
Yes. And in that, our favorite book, or one of our favorite books that we was reading, that I just recently read, but I think Gina already read it, which is Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural. And he talks about past, present realities versus present, future realities. And I think, like Gina was saying, like it's a balance between the present and the future that we have to like have that marriage between. And a lot of times I wasn't having that future thought. Like I'm so much in the present. I think when we think intention versus emotions and how our intentions plus our emotions give us the result, like I think the intention is the future goal. The emotion is what you need to feel now. And I was so in the feel now and not really in remembering the intentions. So I think when we pair Gina's like intentional like way of being and my emotional way of being, and we both try to meet each other and become more intentional and become more emotional, that's where we bridge that gap between the present and our future. And that's partnership, I think.
Yeah, that's totally. How do you tie each other's weaknesses to your strengths and someone's strengths to your weaknesses?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah. And so how has your past experience been with partnership? Like, have you ever been a collaborator? Like, are you more so, is this your first time collaborating with someone? Like, what's your background to that, Gigi?
I think I've had like a fine balance of both. I think I've had many collaborations with others, whether that's one more person or a full-on group. I think the most has been 5.
Yeah.
And then a fair amount of just like solo projects, more of just like something that's a little bit more intimate, personal, more like a diary.
Yeah.
but this has been my first one in a while with someone else in probably like, I don't know, 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a hot second. 4 years. Yeah, was the last one.
So you went through a collaboration pandemic?
Pretty much. Pretty much. Collaboration hiatus.
Okay.
Yeah, I took a break, you know? And I think the biggest thing I've learned, I think my preference is always working with others for the research part of things.
Mm-hmm.
So the discussions, the activities that lead up to inspiration, and then I kind of take that and then produce something on my own. So actually that's kind of collaborative though, but I think it's the space where I end up actually making something tactical that I do alone. So I think it's like split in half for me, if that makes sense.
So like basically creating two wholes and bringing it together to make a super whole.
Yeah.
Like you
like
create an individual project with somebody else's individual project. You guys put it together. They can still be individual projects on their own if they wanted to, but they come together to create a super project.
Yeah, exactly. Because I find it really fascinating and honestly really like touching when you have a group of people that are all in the same, I guess, like stage of their emotions, and they produce something, and then you come together and you're like, wait, I find that we're all sharing right now, we're sharing all our projects and they all have the same theme.
Yeah.
And when you talk a little bit about the background context of it, I'm kind of going through the same thing. And then you're like, oh, hold up, maybe we should do like a little group showing or group little like exhibition, or like maybe like come together and create something else that has to do with it, but it's an extension of it.
Yeah.
I think I enjoy that a lot. But I think in terms of collaborations that are from the start, like from the foundation, kind of like this, I think I've only ever done one time. Yeah. And I think this is like the second thing. Yeah. So it's very new. It's very new for me.
Yeah. And was it a success when you did? Well, the word success, I think, is very, I guess, what was the journey when you did that, I guess, the one other time with the partnership with somebody from the ground?
I think it was successful.
Yeah.
Because I learned so much from it. And I feel like trying it again, for example, right now, is a success. Because I didn't shut down from it, or I didn't like say I can never do this again. It was just fine if you do choose to do that and realize that's not your groove or your vibe. That's fine. But I think what I learned most from it is that I could be very guarded and like not want to be emotional or vulnerable. And I think it helped me lean into someone else and lean into their vulnerability to be like, oh, I could be like that too. It's okay. So I think for me it was a success. Yeah. It opened myself up a bit more. Yeah. Yeah. Because I find those spaces to be really intimate, and it was nice to like bring another collaborator in. Yeah. Yeah. So I found it helpful.
And I know we were talking about like a shared vision being like a main thing or an area of importance for a collaboration with someone. But what about working styles? Like, do you like? I know we have our
very different.
We have very different working styles, and so
180 flip.
See, she adding 10 on it. But we have very different working styles. However, is that a deal breaker?
It's not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
I think in the past it would have been.
Yeah.
I think in the past I would have been like, hell no. Like I just would have immediately been like, no, shut the door. Now I don't think it is. Yeah. Yeah. I think in the past 2 years I've been more open and been like, well, if there's a shared vision or a shared goal with something, then why not? Like what then what's the blocker? Yeah. Is it like I'm blocking myself of like learning more about myself and other people So I don't think it's a blocker
Yeah.
anymore. In the past, yeah, it would have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
So to the original question in regards to like collaboration experience,
Mm.
this is like my first real like segue into like partnering with someone from the ground up, similar to you. A lot of the stuff I've done on my own, and it's not necessarily because I don't like working with people. It's more so I was always afraid, and my ego was always involved, to the point where I feared that the person I would partner with on a particular project will steal my idea, or take or I don't know what I was afraid of. I was just afraid that just in sharing the initial idea that someone's going to be like, I don't want to partner with you. I'm about to go do that on my own. I don't know. It's maybe like traumatic like history within, I guess, our cultures, like the Black and like Latinx cultures, of like people stealing our ideas that, probably was in my head a lot of the times when I do have ideas. It's like, nah, what happened to, the same thing that happened to, somebody like Benjamin Banneker or something is going to happen to you, or the same thing they did to this person in history is going to happen to you if you share your idea with someone. So keep it to yourself and do it on your own. But then I had started to realize that I realized it when I came to Gina and we talked about this, was like, you're not going to get really far in life or far in what you want to do unless you partner with somebody with that shared vision. You can get there on pulling yourself by your own bootstraps or whatever the case, and these whole like ideas and these fake concepts that we have in our head that we did it on our own, we did it solo, we did it by ourselves. But that's a very much that's like a false reality, I think, sometimes when we think we did it on ourselves, because even when you think you did it alone, somebody helped you along the way. Like if you needed money to go to the bank or you needed a loan, that person, the teller at the bank that helped you facilitate this loan, was a person that you needed to get you there, right? If you were taking the bus every day and you're hustling, trying to make your money to fund your business, and you're saying you did it on your own, you wouldn't be there without that bus company in order to get you to work, or whatever the case may be. So even when we think we are doing it alone, we're really not. And so I had to wake up and I realized that when it's like, you don't have to do it alone. When you find someone with a shared vision, with the same goals, somebody that you actually like and can get along with, and that you guys can do this together, then why not? Then you're just living in a state of fear, and now you're just not being now you're just like living in fear instead of just like reaching out and like doing it together, because yeah, we get further together versus by ourselves. So I think in me always doing it by myself, it didn't get me far. So I'm like, okay, what's the other thing I can try? And I think because in the past, in doing it by myself, when I forget my own vision, when I'm doing a project by myself or doing a business idea, business venture that I think like I'm just gonna do it by myself, and I forget the vision and I forget the goal, and then I have no one to remind me of it. And so I just quit it. And I just run from it because I forgot it and I'm done. And no one's there to hold me accountable, and no one's there to like be like, yo, no, this is the vision. Like, let's keep going. Yeah. Versus now, when I lost the vision, when I felt like, all right, I'm done. This is getting overwhelming. Gina helped me remember the vision, whether like purposely or not. Like in having a conversation with her about how I was feeling, she helped me. She reminded me of the vision. Even doing this, when I had the realization at the beginning of this episode, it's like that reminded me of the vision, and I wouldn't have been able to get reminded of the vision if I was operating in a silo. So, yeah.
How did you break that? Because that's a lot of ego work. You know what I mean? To be like, you know what? I can't. Like, my vision is something that I feel like someone else has, and I could share this vision with someone and execute on this. Because you could have that mentality, but still not execute in that way. So what kind of acted like as a bungee jump to be able to get there?
I really think it's just like getting just taking the leap. I don't know. It wasn't anything. It's just more so like when just getting to the point of when I know better, I do better type thing. Like if I know something is the right thing to do, or if I know of the right way to do it, then I'll be doing a disservice of myself to not do it. But then also because one benefit that I've always had in my life, and which has led me to try so many different things. And if you've been following me for a long time, if someone out there knows the history of Aaron, like from high school, and like say they just been watching my Instagram over the last like 10 to 15 years, they would see like, damn, like he's like done so many things. I done worked in the music industry. I worked as a recruiter. I worked as partnerships. I worked in entertainment. I've started recruiting businesses. I've started these, and like they're like, dang, he just does like a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty in that is I've always led my curiosity, and I've always been really curious about things. And I think this is the first time I was just curious about this. I was curious about like how it would be to like have a partner in something like that. So outside of my ego being eradicated in this sense, I think it was also just me being curious about something I had never tried before. Because I'm like, everything else didn't work. So like when you have an idea and you can find somebody with a shared vision, then why not partner with someone? You know, so
having that open mind.
Just having open mind.
Give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could be curious and still be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and just be kind of stuck in this cycle of stuckness. If that's even a word, but yeah.
Because I don't want to leave this lifetime and like saying I didn't try something I thought of, right? Because maybe in the next lifetime, I'm not going to be able to do something like I'm pretty sure hopefully it'll be a positive one, but I'm like, what if like we don't have an opportunity in the next lifetime to create a podcast with a partner that you actually get along with, right? And I'm like, in the next lifetime, I'm like, damn, like I wish I'd have did that. But I'll be doing new things. But I don't want to look back and be like, you thought it, so why you didn't try it? Yeah. You know. And trusting my intuition, I think, was a big thing with this as well. Like it just felt right, and I just want to continue doing things that feels right internally, and not hesitating.
It's valid. Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets me thinking though about like what. Because you're talking about how, like, being curious, being open-minded, and taking that leap is really important when your intuition guides you to take an idea to execution. And I think about this a lot. When do you find that ideas are not worth acting upon? Where you're like, this is a great idea, but it should only exist as an idea. Like, it does not need to flourish into anything else. It's just
when do I know?
It's just like a creative idea. And then maybe that idea is executed to someone else.
Yeah.
Like the way they translate it to the world is probably best for that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think when you don't want to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
That's how you know, because like I love Shark Tank, and so like I'm always like, so when I'm watching Shark Tank, I'm like, dang, that's a good idea, man. Like I should have thought of that. You like, okay, really? If you thought of it, would you have wanted to do that?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have wanted to create like this wacky idea. I wouldn't have wanted to do it.
Yeah.
That was his or her idea to like execute, because they actually thought of it and wanted to do it. So I think is when we have our intuition leads us somewhere, and we have these thoughts and we have these feelings and we have these goals. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
You have to want to do it. Yeah.
Find like when you get that idea and that spark and that intuition like leads you in, like you have that spark and be like, oh, that's a good idea, and I want to do it.
Yeah.
Then go. Because I have a lot of ideas that I don't want to execute. I'm like, nah, that's for somebody else, and it will eventually get to someone else. Like the thing you posted with Rick Rubin's book, how the creative act, a way of being, and the page you posted was about like, the ideas are going to get used by someone eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
You know?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That
so,
was on that page. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like that's just not. I don't want to execute that idea, and it's okay to not want to do it.
Execute it, yeah.
And I think a lot of times in the past, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of great ideas that I really didn't want to do. It was just a good idea that I just did. And then once I'm like 2 months in, I'm like, you don't want to do this, Aaron. You do not want to start a recruiting agency on the side. It's a good idea,
yeah.
but it's not for you.
This is not for you. Yeah, totally.
So I think we'll know when our intuition is leading us in the right places when we actually want to do the idea that comes into our head.
I feel like with ideas, once they're gone, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they very much are a testament to the present, like what you're feeling, what's going on in your life then.
Yeah.
But I notice you have a lot of good ideas.
Okay.
And there's been so many times where you're like, wow, there's this movie that came out, or there's this thing that came out. And, years ago, I was thinking about that, and it's the exact same thing.
Exact same idea.
Exact same idea. And what's funny is, like, while that thing was being made, it seems like it's during the same time that you kind of had that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, when do you feel like ideas... One, I guess, first question for you, do you feel like ideas are that? Because that's definitely my own opinion of, like, ideas are reflective of that present moment. And, like, I don't think they come back.
Yeah.
I really don't. Do you feel like they do? Like, have you had an idea and later on you're, like, rethinking about it and it comes back, or no?
No, it's gone.
Interesting.
It's gone because it gets created. It gets created, and then when it comes back, I think it either leaves or it either leaves and never comes back and goes to someone else, and then you'll see it and be like, oh, that's what that was, or it just stays with you forever. And I think those ideas that stay with you forever and that never leave are the ones that's calling us and telling us that we need to do it. Because there's some ideas that I have that stay with me for a long time. Like the love for talking and podcasting. This idea has been with me forever, since I was a kid doing something like this.
Really?
Yeah, I always thought of myself of doing like being like Montel Williams or something like that, because I used to love watching talk shows growing up. Like I was a kid, I didn't watch cartoons. I watched Montel Williams, I watched Maury, I watched Jerry was not a talk show. I watched Oprah. I watched the Tyra Banks show. That's all I did. I watched talk shows.
Live talk shows, yeah.
And so that's a dream of mine that's never left me. Like this, what we're doing now has never left me. So I think those things that never leave are the things that are worth paying attention to. And the things that do leave, maybe it wasn't meant for you to do it. And maybe it was for someone else to execute that idea. But I think we just have to pay more attention to the things that never leave us, So, yeah.
Another question for you.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions for you right now. The other question is, what do you find is your natural state of being? Because one thing I've been reading a lot of is creative thinking is something we do all the time. Like, there's traffic and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know, how am I gonna get there on time? Let me try to reroute, whether you use your Google Maps or not. But you're like, oh, I remember that one place is over there, I'm gonna just take this highway instead. Like, that was creatively thinking. You're strategizing other ways to accomplish where you need to get, which is from point A to point B. Do you feel like or actually, let me rephrase that. Where do you find that you're in your, like, at the core, like, what is your way of being, if that makes sense? Is it kind of, like you were saying, I've always envisioned myself, or always just realized I enjoy talking and connecting with other people and learning their stories. Is that your natural way of being, where you find, like, that's the core of, like, who you are? Or is it, like that traffic little story? Like, is it more of like strategizing and like kind of outsmarting little loopholes to get to a point? Like, what would you say is your natural way of being?
Like being like the, just to clarify, so being, my natural way of being, I think, is like the connecting with people and doing that. like this is my natural way of being, like this. I think
I guess what I mean, like what naturally comes to you, like where you feel like safe, comfortable, like it's just like the moment where someone says, I'm just being, like right now, like I don't know
yeah,
what to tell you.
is when I'm like having a conversation with someone. Like I feel more like I wouldn't say, because I know that's like I feel comfortable being in solitude, but I also feel really comfortable when I'm hearing someone else's story and like just listening to their story, their life journey, and some stuff like that. I think that's my natural way of being. I don't know if that's answering your question directly, but okay, yeah. Okay, I have a question for you since that brought up a question. Yeah. So, quick question for you, Gina. So, collaboration and collaborating with someone. How perfect does it have to be? How perfect does it?
Feel not so called out.
I'm just saying not the project itself, because it's gonna have imperfections and things that are gonna come up. Like we've been through so many imperfection moments within this podcast, but the collaboration itself, the synergy between you and that other individual, that energy that you guys are sharing, like how perfect does it have to be?
I would say close to it. Close to it. Obviously, perfection is an illusion. It's not real. Nothing's perfect. But pretty darn close to it is always what my goal is.
Close to nothing?
Like, no. Like,
because if perfection is not existent, then what are we getting close to? What are we striving
close
for?
To like almost to the complete like vision. Doesn't have to hit it on the head, but like very close to it.
Yeah.
You know, if things stray away, that's fine, but it has to be in alignment with what the intention is, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I guess for me, it's like, does it match the intention? Like if I'm going into something because I want to learn more about a particular thing, if I'm no longer learning from it, it's really not close to perfection anymore. Like that journey is no longer aligned, if that makes sense. So pretty darn close to what my goal or vision is.
Okay. I think I'm going to challenge you in the sense there. It's like, and I probably shouldn't have phrased it in this way, but perfection, I think, like you said, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
So like in that idea, then close to perfection doesn't exist either. If perfection doesn't exist, then close to perfection doesn't exist. Then that whole spectrum doesn't exist. I think I read somewhere once that perfection is like whole. Like instead of saying perfect, we should really be saying whole. Wholeness. Complete.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Complete. And so, and we'll never, hopefully, like when this podcast ends, like we've talked about this before, season 10 or whatever the case may be, when we reach to the point where we finally feel it's complete.
Yeah.
It's done its job.
Yeah.
That's when we reach perfection or wholeness or completion. And I think in the strive for wholeness and the strive for completion is what the journey is, and that's what's perfect. Like us striving towards it. Once that person or that person in the collaboration or collaborative group divvies off and they're no longer striving to wholeness, they're no longer striving to completion, they're no longer striving towards that goal, that's when they either need to be realigned or they need to be, or the partnerships needs to be reevaluated.
Yeah.
Once the strive isn't there. Because we're not whole right now, but we're striving towards it, and that's perfect.
Interesting.
Like our project isn't complete. Like our goal of what we envisioned is not there yet. We haven't reached the completion point of that. But I think us striving towards it is perfect.
It's
like
the
that's
journey
perfect.
To like the completion.
Yeah.
It's like perfect.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Interesting.
Because that's also goes to success too, and like what people deem as a success. Like, I remember in like Napoleon Hill's book, maybe it's Think and Grow Rich or 10 Laws of Success, one of those. But he talks about success and successful and what does that mean. And I always think about this because success and successful comes from the root word secession. And secession means to go forward, to move forward, success. The root word success is to succeed. To succeed in another language, I think Latin means to move forward, progress. So when you say you're successful, it's not because you reached a particular point. I think successful and succeeding is the act of moving forward towards that goal. And that's when you're a success.
Yeah.
And that's being a success. As long as you're moving towards, you're successful. Because you're succeeding through something.
Yeah. That makes sense. It's the act of moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once we stop, that's when you can say you're not a success. But we're all low-key successes.
Wait, go back. When you're saying when it stops, it stops being a success.
Right. When you stop moving, you stop succeeding. You stop succeeding.
I feel like that's still success.
Well, there you go.
You're taking a pause, and sometimes a pause is a success.
Okay.
You know? Like for me, for example.
Because you're still doing something.
Yes, you're still doing something. Like, it's a verb. Resting is a verb.
Yeah.
Has an ing in it. You know what I mean? Like, taking a break, you're taking a moment to achieve a state of being. Yeah, for example, like providing a space for one another and then whoever is listening to mull over what we're talking about, like these different topics, for me is a success.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. Of course, it's not going to be perfect,
and
that's fine. But, like, I think just the act of curating something to provide something is close to perfection. Because obviously, I think there's something that always could be improved upon, but there's always a next time, and that's why it's successful. There's still something to like reiterate next time. Yeah.
I agree with you.
Success
is stopping, and success is resting. To recharge or to not to recharge, you're still doing something, which means we're all successful. That's what that means. It's like when people don't think they're success, it's like you're figuring it out, so you are success. You're resting, so you are a success. You are doing something that's needed for you at that moment. And I think like when we talk about Joe and Joe Dispenza, I'm saying like we talk about Joe like he's like been on the podcast. We talking about Joe JD, Joe Dispenza. Sorry if you didn't know who he was. We talk about his book and talked about the space and time continuum. It's like when we look at time and space, when time doesn't exist, and when we eliminate the idea of time, we're already at our complete self. We're already at our whole self. We already at the state of completion. We just need to remove the space between our current self and our completed self. And once we eliminate time, we're already where we want to be.
Yeah.
And so we're already perfect. We're already whole. We're already complete. I think when I say perfect, we have to like get out our idea of like how it sounds and like what society has told us perfect is. But perfect is just essentially being whole. We are as whole as we can be at this present moment.
Yeah.
And if you want to be somewhere else, then just be there. Remove the time delay that you think you need to do to get there. Just be there already. And it's hard to do that. And it's hard for me to do that, just to be at the place I want to be. But that's the goal within life, is just try to be there. Be where you want to be. Remove the time gap that you think is existing out there.
Because we're so attached to the timeline that we forget, like, I think about this a lot because I feel like we're definitely in a world where we're kind of addicted to suffering. Like, we constantly want to feel like if we aren't struggling, then we're not going anywhere. Like, there wasn't any, like, blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
But I think what you just mentioned reminds me of how a lot of the times where we are right now is what we like hoped and dreamed of,
Mm-hmm.
like at the beginning of a certain timeline,
Yeah.
right? And it's like if you do just take the moment to kind of just be there, you realize, oh wow, like I am where I hope to be, and I will be,
Yeah.
where I hope to be, that present future too.
Yeah. We're living
Yeah.
our wildest dreams from 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's such beauty in that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're living someone else's prayers too. Like I was
totally.
DC Young Fly, comedian. He was on an interview and he was talking about how his mom prayer for him essentially was to be successful or whatever. And like when he sees her happy and stuff, he like looks at her and says like, "You live in a prayer, like for me to be okay, or for me like you're living someone else's prayer. Like we're living our ancestors' prayers for us." Like we're living our parents and all this stuff that they've thought about and like stressed about over time. So I want my kids to be okay. I want them to be fine. Like when we realize that, dang, we live in our dreams, but we're also living someone else's prayer for us.
Yeah,
It's like crazy.
it's crazy to think about. We're the response to that.
We're that time erased.
Yeah.
Like we're like the 3D, like in living in this universe, there are going to be like rules of the universe in 3D time and whatever the case may be, and things take time. But when we look back at like 10 years ago, we realized that how short ago that felt. We realized that 10 years ago felt like this because the time was just in our heads. And I think, it gets crazy. So in coming full circle again, collaboration.
Yeah.
Is this something that you feel is important to get to a certain place in life?
100%. I
Yeah.
think there's community in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should lean. I don't want to say should, actually. I take that back. But I think we should feel not should. Oh wow, I keep saying should.
It's
Maybe
probably
needs to be
something that
said.
should be said.
I think leaning into others, leaning into your community is vital to grow, to nurture one another, to cultivate spaces where you could share in your strengths and your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And lift each other up. So I do think it's very necessary. I think collaboration, I feel like if we never collaborated with others, like where would we go? Where would the innovation be? Where would the love be shared? The friendships be shared? Like everything. Like where does it go?
Yeah.
Like yes, you could take yourself there, but like there's only so much. I feel like there's a cap.
Yeah.
And in collaboration, there's just so many directions you could go.
Yeah.
That you just can't with yourself.
Yeah.
So I think there's a really beautiful thing of doing it with others. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an unknown within yourself when you do things, and like there's an unknown part of it that's exciting. But when you join up with someone and you pair with somebody else's unknown, and you're like exploring that. And when you were talking, it kind of felt like a training ground. Like our relationship and our communication, our partnership, and our trials and the things that we go through in our conversations and how we help each other and like all the awareness that breeds within just this partnership for this podcast helps me when I'm communicating outside of this, because I take things from like this training ground of this and I can use it in a relationship with my mom or my family or my like relationship with people or a significant other or whatever the case may be. And so are those partnerships training grounds for this, right? And so like if we never collaborate, we don't train that muscle of being in the world, and so I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful to have a partner to be able to bounce ideas off and hold me accountable and remind me, like help me remember of who I am personally, but then also what the shared vision is, because it is important. It is important to have a sounding board. So thank you for being a great collaborator, Gina.
Thank you. Thanks to you too.
Okay.
Feelings mutual.
Well, that's it.
That's it. That's all for today.
That's it.
I feel like I've taken away a lot, even though we had a mini prior conversation and then really extended that out and broke it down here. But I still feel like I took away so much, especially the time piece. I feel like I need to revisit that book.
Yeah.
Because it's just so easy to get stuck on a timeline.
Yeah.
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 Like, what do I need to do this summer? What do I need to like accomplish down the road? Like, it's not really down the road, you know. It's like
right
it's
here.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us.
Peace.
And we'll see you next time. Next episode. Bye, everyone.
Peace out.